of my story, you know God was going to test me in that. You know what I'm saying? He was going to test me to see if really, really I was ashamed of what he was taking me through in my life. See, I've always been the one I told y'all. Can't nobody tell my story like me. I mean, if you're going to tell, oh, she slept with that married man. See, I'm the one to say, girl, it was 2 or 3 married men. And no, it was not her husband, but it was her husband. See, I've never been the one that's been afraid to tell people what God has brought me from. Not so I could get pity from it, but just like this woman of God said, and just like you talked about, and just like you talked about, and it was just so somebody else can be inspired and that they could never walk in the shoes and the path that I walked in. I told my baby sister, I said, listen here, you're going to learn to look at my life. You're going to learn to take, because I'm a written epistle. You're going to learn to look at my life. You're going to learn to see what I went through and choose to say, Tomika went through that. I don't have to do it. And so I learned at a very young age that it was only God that was going to keep me in my life, and it was going to only be God that takes me where I'm going. And even at the age of 22, when I was a senior in college, let me check my time. I was a senior in college, and I felt like I had big things going for me. And that's the time when I was pregnant, and I got pregnant with my now 17-year-old who's taking her SAT today. Hey, she's taking her SAT today, getting ready to go to college. But I got pregnant with my 17-year-old at the age of 22. I was getting ready to graduate from college. I had big things going for me. And that is when the time in my life where I fell on my face and I realized that I could not be nothing apart from God. My reputation was ruined. I felt like my dreams were ruined. I felt like there was no way I was going to make it in life. I knew that people were going to call me a failure. It was that place of shame for me because, you know, I'm supposed to be Miss America one day. I'm supposed to be Katie Couric one day. I'm the one supposed to be the next Yolanda Adams. But here I am, church girl, got a baby, you know, and no husband. And so it was then that God showed me where he stood and where I stood with him. Because 1 year later, I was able to rise above that and still go back into college 1 year later and graduate with my bachelor's degree and still overcome that, right? But then this is how awesome God is, because I told you that at a young age, he had already told me where I was going in my career, in my life, as it relates to me being a public figure in my life. And even at that time, I went to WLB and I got my first job there as a reporter and a producer, which was very unheard of. It had nothing to do with my looks. It had nothing to do with my ability. It had nothing to do with anything. I just walked in and it was just a favor of God on my life because I had no idea what I was doing. None of the college education or college, whatever they taught me in college. When I got on the job, I didn't know what I was doing. I was letting you know now. So it was nobody but God that has taken me through my career path and my life, even as I've worked in television and television news. But I wanted to say this, that all of us have a resume. All of us have that resume, that professional resume, but all of us also have a spiritual resume. And so I was reading in 2 Corinthians when Paul, he was one of the greatest persecutors of the Christians, right? And I'm getting ready to sit down. He was one of the greatest persecutors, right? But he is also the greatest apostle of all time, right? And so when Paul, he had started the church in Corinth, right? And all the elites had rose up against him. Now, he had worked very hard, and God had delivered him and set him free. And Paul had a story. And what happened was all the dignitaries, the ones who didn't go through what Paul went through, the ones who didn't have the struggle, who didn't go through the shame that we went through, who didn't have the babies at a young age, who didn't come from the projects, who didn't get molested, who didn't get raped, who didn't get abused, all of them raised up and started wanting to know how in the world is he qualified to be who he is. And so they were calling themselves rabbis and doctors, and his haters rose up against him, and all the people were looking at the ones who didn't have a story, and they started to look at them as if they were better than Paul. And I know you don't want to boast about yourself, you know what I'm saying, and you don't always have to put your business on public display, but every now and then there comes a time where you need to make your resume known. And so Paul, as they were checking Paul and they were challenging Paul and challenging Paul if he was qualified. Paul said, wait, just 1 minute. Every now and then you got to tell somebody, wait a minute, you think you know me, but you don't know me like that. You think you know me, see, but you don't know me like that. See what Paul did? Paul had to let them know, see, I've been shipwrecked. Can't none of y'all handle the shipwreck that I done handled. See, I've been thrice bitten. Come on now. You ever been bit by a snake? Not any one of them. And see, once in a while, you got to tell somebody, you ever been backed in a corner at the age of 7 years old and a grown man have his way with you and you work your way out of it and you live to become something? Because I know several women in life that didn't make it past high school because they were popping pills and they committed suicide and put a gun to their head, and right now they're in a mental institution. Right now they're on the street selling their bodies because they couldn't make it through one molestation. But then every now and then you got to tell them it wasn't but one, it wasn't two, it was three. But look where God has brought me to. Every now and then. Every now and then there comes a time where you got to let them know, you think you know me, but you don't know me like that. You don't know me like that now. I'm more than qualified to be where I am. I'm more than qualified to sit in the place that God has set me in. Every now and then. You got to let them know. You just touch your neighbor and say, every now and then. Every now and then you got to chin check them. Every now and then you got to let them know what's up. Every now and then you got to let them know, I will take out these eyelashes, honey. I will take this hair out of my head. What's on the inside of me is greater than what you see. Because greater is he that is in me, that is he that is in the world. And baby, you can never walk a day in my shoes. You think you know me, but you don't. Now listen. Paul had to just go ahead and let them know what's up. Every now and then you just got to go ahead and let them know your spiritual resume. Every now and then you just got to let them know where God has brought you from. Every now and then, see, let me go ahead and pull out my brother David. See, David over there in 2 Samuel 6, he had just won the Ark of the Covenant. He had just came back from a great victory. You ever had a victory and all you see is your haters around? She thinks she's something. She thinks she's something. She thinks she all this and that. You ever had a victory and you want nobody to celebrate? But David said, I don't care who's celebrating up in here. David danced his clothes off. I need somebody to tell somebody, this one ain't for you. This one right here is for me and him. This praise right here that I'm giving is for me and him. And see, David had a hater. I mean, Michael was just sitting up here. You dance all out of your clothes. And David told her, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because see, she wasn't there when David was fighting with the bear. You know that big old bear rug he got in his living room hanging up on the wall? She wasn't there when he was fighting Goliath. You know that big old head of the giant head he got on his wall? She wasn't there. And every now and then, you need to touch your neighbor and say, baby, this ain't for you. This praise is not for you. This praise is not for you. This walk is not for you. It's for the one who was there for me when you went nowhere around. It's the one that was there for me when I almost lost my mind. It's for the one that was there for me when I could have been dead sleeping in my grave. Every now and then. It's all right. Tell your neighbor every now and then. It's all right to go ahead and put your resume out there.